Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Sarah, if you're reading this letter, it means that you're at your mom's place and already know that we no longer have our home. Inside this envelope, you'll find a key to the storage unit where I placed your clothes and personal belongings. I've paid for 1 month of storage. I didn't have time to pack everything neatly, so I hope you won't mind the 10 trash bags I used. I tried to handle fragile items with care. Thank you for the letter you left on the mantel when you and Mitch went on the 2-week cruise with the tickets I brought home. I remember the look of surprise on your face when I walked in and found you both in our bed. That smug look on his face as you pleaded with him not to stop. I'm not sure which of my performances was better. The unmistakable sadness on my face when I saw you two together. When I threw the flowers and the tickets at you, suggesting you take your lover on the cruise since it was clear I was no longer needed, I felt a deep pain. I noticed Mitch's eyes light up at the mention of the cruise, and his smug expression indicated he thought he'd won. Perhaps my biggest act was pretending to be humiliated for the following 3 weeks while he bragged to everyone at the office that he had my wife, because I was supposedly not man enough to keep her. Even the office manager came to my desk once to mock me. Please extend my thanks to Mitch for the email he sent around at work, announcing that he was going on a 2-week cruise with my wife and at my expense. I also appreciate the fact that both of you discussed the business trip he arranged for me, which would allow you to spend 4 days together. I'm glad you finally admitted that he seduced you at the Christmas party. I noticed him flirting with you at other company events, but it was only at that party that I caught you both sneaking away together. That night was the first time I saw you together, and I even managed to capture it on my phone. His wife calls him the stallion who drains and dumps, and it's hard to argue with that description. He is indeed quite enduring, but she believes you'll quickly lose interest in him. In truth, she prefers my smaller stature and the tender intimacy of our shared affection. Yes, his wife and I became lovers. About 2 weeks after the Christmas party, I visited their home and showed her your photo, which she had no idea about. At first, we intended our meeting as an act of revenge, but we discovered such chemistry in bed that we began regularly making love. As we spent more time together and shared our thoughts, our feelings for each other deepened. That's when we began planning the cruise and the final act of revenge against you both. To stay informed about your plans, we began recording your conversations. My lawyer was particularly interested in how you and Mitch discussed where to send me next. Victoria and I were concerned that you might resist the main part of our plan. The hardest part was convincing you to sell the house first. I figured you'd be tempted by the offer of a bigger house in a better neighborhood, and you were. Then I rushed in with the papers you needed to sign right after seeing Mitch leave. I knew you'd sense something was off and want me out of the house as quickly as possible, and once again you didn't disappoint me. Seeing me burst into the room, you looked shocked, but I quickly explained that I needed your signature on some documents for the realtor. When I left the room, you signed the papers without even looking at them, and I heard you sigh with relief. You signed the power of attorney without a second thought. Then I unexpectedly saw you both together. I was incredibly nervous entering the bedroom, but not because of what I found there, but because I worried that I wouldn't be able to look sad and vulnerable enough to make my performance convincing. I must have played my role well because you both made snide comments and smirked at my obvious distress. After Mitch left, when I moved my things into the guest room to make space for his, I thought you'd be thrilled. But instead, you apologized in a sad, pouty tone. When I turned to face you, tears were in my eyes. I had to prick myself to bring them out. I couldn't help but notice your smirk. I felt the urge to keep my distance from you, just as Victoria, Mitch's wife, kept her distance from him. Of course, he doesn't wear a wedding ring and tells women he's single, but trust me, he's been married for 6 years. Sarah, you're already the 8th or 9th affair his wife suspects since they tied the knot. The purpose of this letter is to inform you and Mitch that Victoria and I have decided to be done with you cheaters. We don't want a divorce, but if you both want one, you're welcome to cover the expenses. As for Mitch, he'll undoubtedly get in touch when he finds out that Victoria sublet their apartment. Unlike me, she went as far as to donate his clothes to the Salvation Army. The furniture from our house and then from their apartment we managed to sell to a few interested buyers. Since our house was sold and Victoria's apartment was sublet, we needed a place to stay, and we decided to go to Paris for a while to think things over. Due to a shortage of cash, Victoria emptied the bank accounts but left the credit cards open for our trip. Don't forget to tell Mitch that he'll surely appreciate all the miles we racked up for him. While you two were off traveling, we enjoyed a week in Paris in luxurious 5-star hotels, and all those expenses were charged to Mitch's card. You might want to reconsider your choice of Mitch. His credit limit isn't very high. During the first 4 days in Paris, we made the most of 3 cards. Fortunately, he had 4 more cards for the remainder of our trip. Now that I've shared with Mitch all the good news about Victoria, our trip, the apartment, and the bank, it's time to share the bad news. I suspect that upon his return, he may lose his job. After all, I've filed an alienation of affection lawsuit against him, the branch manager, and the company. After visiting the main office in New York, my lawyer first reviewed the records of your conversations with Mitch, where Mitch boasted about sending me to betray you. Additionally, he found recordings of other employees coming to my workplace to mock me for being deceived by Mitch, with the branch manager joining in the ridicule. Moreover, my lawyer presented Mitch's emails regarding the cruise, which were stored on the company's server. After examining this evidence, the company's attorneys agreed to our reasonable demand for financial compensation and my resignation in exchange for my signature on a confidentiality agreement. They quickly faxed the agreement to my office. I signed all the documents and returned them along with my resignation letter. My lawyer received 2 checks, one for his fee and another for my pension, severance pay, and all unused vacation days. I had already retired before you and that fool boarded the ship. Also, Victoria sold one of their cars and her sailboat. Let Mitch know he should be careful with signatures before rushing. Like you, he gave Victoria power of attorney. She considered selling the car you drove home in but decided against it, considering the remaining payments. Now as for you, my dear wife, who enjoyed belittling me and calling me weak. While you and Mitch laughed, Victoria and I were making plans. The humiliation you both subjected me to is now coming back to the 2 of you in full measure. I suppose your mother will let you and Mitch stay at her house. When I gave her the letter, I explained that you had gone on a cruise with your lover, and that I could no longer tolerate the awkwardness of your closeness in our home. I also gave her a copy of your humiliating letter. She seemed very upset by your behavior. I just had to call you a good wife who preferred to sleep with another man. Mom agreed that it accurately reflected your choice. I want to remind you that you previously signed a power of attorney. If you need a refresher, you can look at the beginning of this letter. So I sold the furniture after you boarded the ship. I moved my clothes and belongings to Victoria's hotel room. When Mitch sent me to Texas for those 4 days, I took a couple of sick days, flew out of the country, and opened a bank account in the Cayman Islands. When we completed the sale of the house, I transferred the funds to this new account. As I mentioned earlier, my wife was not present at the closing because she was looking for a new place to live, and I was planning to leave soon. The company staff was more than willing to help me. Additionally, I decided to sell both of our cars since I no longer needed them. I closed all the credit card accounts except for one in my name alone, so I hope you didn't try to use the cards during your trip. It would have been quite awkward. Furthermore, I closed all our bank accounts, and once again, the power of attorney proved very useful. The homeowners willingly transferred the money to my new account. I used your portion of those funds to pay off our joint credit card debts before closing them. I always thought you were one of the most beautiful women I had ever met until I met Victoria. I deeply regret spending 45 years of marriage on such a terrible woman as you. Now I realize what a fool Mitch was to cheat on such an amazing woman as her. Victoria has shoulder-length black hair and charming green eyes. She's petite and slim, with a perfect figure that will stay youthful, unlike what I imagine will happen to you in a few years. 5 years younger than me, she's a refreshing change, while Mitch is stuck with someone older. During our travels in Paris, men envied me when she held my hand as we strolled together. We drew admiring glances when we danced in the evenings, and the stars witnessed our passionate nights. Victoria and I haven't yet decided where we want to settle. Thanks to our combined savings, we no longer need to work, so we plan to travel and find the perfect place to retire. I think you enjoyed your part-time job because you said staying home was boring. Now, you'll get to experience all the benefits of full-time work. Perhaps you and Mitch will look for jobs together, or maybe you'll find evening work somewhere downtown. The size and color of your clothes will be whatever you wish. Just don't forget to go for weekly checkups and get tested for HIV, given your lover's past relationships. Good luck, and thank you for your infidelity, which gave me the chance for a happy future with Victoria. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. The start of the day was on a positive note. When I was driving to work, I managed to avoid the usual morning traffic, and to my delight, the parking spot was conveniently located right by the entrance. About an hour after I arrived, my secretary Natalie popped into my office to let me know that Tom Snelling was on the second line, waiting for me. Answering the call, I greeted him and listened as he informed me that after careful consideration, he was ready to sign the contract. This was a contract I had been pursuing for nearly 3 months, a contract worth over $5 million for our company. During our conversation, Tom told me that he had sent the signed contract via fax. I expressed my gratitude, and as soon as he hung up, I headed for the fax machine. Sure enough, the contract was already waiting for me. Taking the documents in hand, I made my way to Barry's office. He's my boss and the owner of the company, so I asked his secretary if he had a moment to spare. Confirming that he was free, I entered his office, ready to share the good news. I handed him the contract, and he smiled as he glanced at it. Not believing that I would be able to achieve this, he remarked that several other employees had unsuccessfully tried to do the same. But Barry smirked and noted that my bonus from this deal would be quite substantial, then added that it was time for me to get back to my duties. Closer to 10 o'clock, Stella, the boss's secretary, called and informed me that Barry urgently needed to see me. As I crossed the threshold of his office, I began to sit down, but he asked me not to bother, assuring me that I wouldn't be staying long enough to get comfortable. He then announced that as of noon today, I would be the new vice president of sales. As one of my first duties as vice president, I would need to fly to Texas to resolve some issues with Mike Thomas, one of our key clients. Mentioning that Stella had all the necessary details, he sent me on my way. After approaching Stella to pick up the documents, she offered to help organize the trip, but I politely declined, saying I could handle it myself. I returned to my office and tried to call my wife, Terry, to share the good news with her, but I found that she wasn't at work, so I left a message asking her to call me back. As I left home to pack for the trip, I noticed Terry's car parked outside. This seemed rather odd to me, but I parked behind her car. As soon as I stepped through the door, I felt something was wrong. Her voice echoed from the rooms, urging someone to hurry up. Gripped by curiosity and fear, I headed to the bedroom where I found Randall Cunningham, her boss, in bed with my wife. They were so engrossed in what they were doing that they didn't even notice me standing at the door. The noise they made drowned out the sound of my phone as I took pictures. Quickly reviewing the photos, I made sure I had clear shots of both their faces before quietly leaving the house. The drive back to the firm took about 30 minutes. Upon arrival, I asked the receptionist if I could see Bart Sampson. Bart and I had a friendly relationship, and he stood up to greet me, extending his hand as I entered his office. "Good to see you, Rob," he said. "Did you come by to invite Terry to lunch? But you're too late. She's not at home." "I have information about where she is and with whom," I replied, pulling out my phone to show him the pictures. "Tell me, when exactly did you take these photos?" "About 30 minutes ago." "And where were they taken?" "On my bed. They didn't even see me taking the pictures. They were supposed to be having lunch with one of our clients." He looked through the files on his desk, read me a number, and asked, "Is this Terry's mobile number?" I nodded in agreement, and he picked up the phone to call. We waited, and eventually the call was answered. "Terry, Your husband is in my office and he just showed me some very inappropriate photos of you with Randall, which he took about 30 minutes ago. You both need to return here, collect your personal belongings, and head to HR to receive your final paycheck. You both need to be out of this building by 5 o'clock. There was a brief silence before he continued. No need, Terry. There's nothing to discuss. Goodbye. He hung up the phone and turning to me said, I'm sorry, Rob. But I had no idea there was anything between them. So what are your plans? Will you divorce her? What I mean is, how will this affect your relationship with my company? None. If you have a policy against their actions and you had to enforce it, it's clear to me that you were as unaware of their activities as I was. I just regret that I won't be seeing you at corporate events and meetings anymore. Finally, I stood up, we shook hands, and I started to leave. But before I could reach the door, he called out to me, One more thing, before you meet with a lawyer. I turned to face him. I've never done business with your company before because your wife worked there, and I was always concerned about a potential conflict of interest. Now that Terry no longer works here, give me a call next week, okay? In response, I smiled and said, I will definitely call. With that, I left to find a store where I could buy everything I needed for my trip to Texas. I didn't even have to seek revenge on Terry. She lost her job, her home, my wealth, and a reliable husband who had dedicated his life to her. But she traded it all, and 35 years of marriage, for an affair with her boss. It's a shame I didn't realize sooner that I was wasting my life on an ungrateful woman. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.